Kyle Busch makes his announcement, no option tires this week at Martinsville, and Richard Childress road rage? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Lots to get to today, but first, I want to mention that I've teamed up with Victory Junction to promote the camp's mission, providing an incredible camp experience for children with serious medical conditions free of charge, challenging them, showing them what's possible, what they're truly capable of. As I'm sure many of you know, Victory Junction was the vision of Adam Petty and was brought to life by the Petty family in his honor. The camp has seen tremendous support from the local community and from the NASCAR world as well. I had the chance to visit last year, and now I'll be doing a series of interviews spotlighting campers, program leaders, folks who can share more about Victory Junction's impact. So later in this episode, we'll talk to Hannah Smith, a former camper who was recently presented with an ESPY award for her tremendous work in the adaptive sports world. So I hope you'll stay tuned to the end of this episode to hear some of her inspirational story. But first, we've got some NASCAR news to get to. Kyle Busch teased Sunday night 1851, news coming on Monday. 1851, two car numbers Kyle Busch has made iconic during his career. Last night, he made the announcement. Kyle Busch will compete against his son, Brexton, this Wednesday night at Millbridge. That's the news. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble. No retirement talk, no sudden move to Toyota. I kind of figured once he tagged Brexton on Instagram that this announcement had something to do with his son's racing career, but this is really cool. Brexton, I believe, is 9 years old now. I know this offseason he won a Golden Driller down in Tulsa. Seems to be a sporty little dirt racer. This race tomorrow night, Wednesday night, will be streamed on Dirt Vision, I believe, so there's sure to be a pretty good audience to watch Busch versus Busch. Kyle is already comparing this to Dale and Dale, Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr., LeBron. Look, as cool as it is that Kyle and Brexton will officially be racing against each other for the first time, let's save those comparisons for when Brexton's racing on national TV, ARCA, trucks. I mean, Kyle has talked about the long-term vision is to one day race his son in trucks, maybe one day share a full-time truck ride with Brexton. I'm sure this race at Millbridge will be a hit, sounds like a good time, but let's hold off on the Dale Sr. comparisons, at least for a few more years. But big news, exciting news for the Richard Childress Racing driver. Speaking of RCR, we need to touch on this.
Richard Childress just doored the out of our car.
Denny Hamlin, towards the end of this week's episode of Actions Detrimental, his podcast, I'll link it down in the description below, said that Richard Childress himself tried to force his way into a Joe Gibbs Racing police escort to the airport in Miami, forced his way in and actually doored a Joe Gibbs Racing team car. He posted this photo, apparently, of the aftermath of the alleged incident. Man, Richard Childress, road rage. I guess we now know where Austin Dillon gets it from. Look, RC, I get it. You're a big gamer. You're in Miami. I know you're excited. We all are. But you gotta wait until GTA 6 actually comes out. Man, no, in all seriousness, I'm kind of joking about it because thankfully it sounds like nobody was hurt. But man, I don't have a lot of tolerance for people driving recklessly on public roads with civilians around. I mean, y'all saw the photo Denny posted. That's not like a little rub, like, oops, drifted out of my lane a tad, no, that's real impact. I don't think it's soft to suggest that driving like an idiot on public roads is a scummy thing to do. I guess I shouldn't be shocked that Mr. Hold My Watch, Mr. Sheldon Creed is stupid, would succumb to road rage and do something dumb. Allegedly, but man, I don't care who you are. I got a ton of respect for what Richard Childress has accomplished in his career, but you can't drive like an idiot on public roads, put other people in danger. That's stupid. That's scummy. I am shocked that Denny Hamlin would air this publicly to his thousands of listeners days after it happened. It's not exactly a great look for Richard Childress. You gotta wonder what RC's gonna say to Denny next time he sees him face to face. Anyway, little Denny Hamlin RCR, JGR RCR beef, I guess, to begin our Tuesday morning. Let's move on. Next, we're already looking ahead to Martinsville Speedway this weekend. Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports, confirmed that the Cup Series will use the same Goodyear tire combination they ran at Martinsville last fall. This full post reads, tires for Martinsville weekend are the same as November. No two different versions of tires this weekend, and not expected to have teams choose among two versions, primary and option, during a race again this year. We'll start with the first part. I'm fine with no option tires at Martinsville this weekend. Same tires as the fall race, good with me. The fall race was really damn good. I know the finish was clouded by, controversy, race manipulation, but that fall tire combo had Martinsville looking like Martinsville again. Most passing we've seen at the paperclip in the next gen era. So I'm fine with running it back here in the spring. But the second part of Bob's post, don't expect multiple tire combinations at any races again this year? That surprises me. Look, I thought the Phoenix option tire was OP. It was so much faster than the primes, and it didn't wear out that quick. Sure, the Phoenix option tire allowed for more passing, some more comers and goers, but it also introduced a huge luck factor. Suddenly, 25th place cars with no chance of winning could hold off, gamble, and hope for a late race caution to fall their way. That would give them a chance. That's basically the strategy Ty Dillon employed, and it might have worked if he hadn't messed up on pit road. So I don't love option tires being that great of an advantage, but I said it after Phoenix and I'll say it again. Option tires, two different tire combinations in the same weekend, absolutely has a place at other tracks on the schedule. For example, Richmond last fall, I think, benefited from having two different tire compounds. North Wilkesboro, maybe some of the road courses this summer that are already strategy-heavy races would be more interesting with an option tire. I don't want the championship to be decided by teams guessing when the final caution is going to fall, but regular season races like Richmond or Sonoma, I'm just throwing some out there, could absolutely benefit from having multiple tire compounds to choose from. Obviously, Bob isn't confirming anything there, but he knows what he's talking about. I'm a little surprised to hear that NASCAR likely won't use option tires again this season. I'd kind of penciled them in for Wilkesboro and Richmond and maybe a couple other regular season short tracks. So that news kind of surprises me a bit, and I can't say I'm a huge fan. Again, fine with no option tires at Martinsville. I liked what I saw in the fall. I'd like to see if we can recreate that, but other short tracks, especially in the regular season, I'm down for some options, shake things up a bit. I'm surprised they seem to be straying away from that. Anyway, now, like I talked about earlier, I'd love to invite Hannah Smith onto the show to share some of her inspirational story and to highlight the great impact Victory Junction has made on her life.
My name's Hannah. I am 22 and I was born with spina bifida, which means that I've used a wheelchair full-time for most of my life. Victory Junction was the first place that my family had ever heard of where I could go have a camp experience by myself for a week that was medically safe, and the kids all had similar diagnosis to myself, and the staff are trained to assist people with disabilities. And so I think the best word to describe it is magic, because that's what it felt like. My parents didn't want to send me right away. We heard about Victory Junction and they could not imagine a place that could deal with my extensive medical care needs. And so we went to a family camp, which they offer in the spring and the fall. And my parents saw kids with so much more medical needs than I had, and so much more complicated care, loving camp and being able to attend. And so that shocked them. And I don't think I fully realized as much as my parents did at that time what an impact that makes. But all I know is that they allowed me to come. And so I attended Victory Junction for several years until I aged out. I was around 13 when I first found Victory Junction,
Mm.
um, and it was one of my places that nobody asked me what was wrong with me. Nobody asked me for my medical information. Nobody said, "Why are you in a wheelchair? What's wrong with you?" And for a kid who hears that kind of stuff on a daily basis, it was a breath of fresh air for me. And it was just so nice to be in a place where I could hang out with kids who understood kind of what I was going through in my regular everyday life, and we could talk about things, and I didn't feel so alone.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. And I know before we started recording, we were talking about you playing basketball at a young age, and kind of talking about that community at Victory Junction. I read that you were honored at the ESPY Awards. So does basketball tie into that? What's the story there?
Yeah, well, I remember a photo of the first time I ever played basketball. I was sitting on my dad's shoulder shooting hoops. I think ever since then, I've just been playing basketball. It was one of the sports that made sense for me to play. So when I was 7 years old, I started playing recreational wheelchair basketball for the first time. Once I got to high school and I started traveling around to wheelchair basketball camps on airplanes by myself, I realized, oh, you can play this in college. That means I can go to college. That means I can do whatever I want with my life. And I think, going on my first trip on an airplane at 14 by myself, and then the same year going to Victory Junction and experiencing a similar level of independence really showed me my ability. I went to my local adaptive sports organization, Sportable, and I said, "Hey, I've written up a plan and a proposal for a wheelchair basketball camp. Will you support me? Will you help me?" And they said yes, and this August we'll be running our fourth annual camp.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so the year after that, I started an annual women's wheelchair basketball camp for adult women because there are very few adult women still playing wheelchair basketball after they graduate high school. And the year after that, I started the See It Be It project, which is a social media campaign. And in the future will be so many more opportunities, but um, a nonprofit that's working to show young people with disabilities their possibilities for their future, you
That's
know?
incredible. Yeah.
And so currently I'm interviewing adults with disabilities who have what I call average jobs. I've interviewed financial planners, I've interviewed accountants, I've interviewed computer programmers, and any job you can think of. And we're just trying to put them out there and show people what they can become. And so all of that work led me to be honored with an SB award called the Billie Jean King Youth Leadership Award, which is given to young people ages 16 to 25 who are using sport for change in their communities. And the only SB award named after a woman, which is especially meaningful to someone like me. And I think going back to Victory Junction, it's a week at camp. And people think, oh, it's a week at camp. Kids get to be normal for a week, but you learn independence, you learn how to speak up for yourself, you learn to advocate for your needs, and you your confidence is built and your sense of identity is built, and that carries with you the rest of the year and leads you to make choices and go for things that you may have not gone for before, that can lead you to do things like going to college or getting a job or even winning an SB award. And I think that's so important for people to realize it's never just about the program. It's never just about the camp, never just about the sport. for people with disabilities, when I first met somebody who can drive a car from their wheelchair, that was the first time that I realized that I could drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think meeting people who have your similar disability and are doing amazing things shows you that you can. And I think in a way, sometimes we think of camps like Victory Junction as just a fun experience for kids, and it is that, and it's also showing kids that they can.
I want to again thank Hannah for coming on the show. Very motivational, strong message there. And I really appreciate all of you at home giving it a watch. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more NASCAR content every single day. We'll get you from one Sunday to the next every single week. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, folks. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.